So one of the things that almost every law firm that markets anywhere talks about is how you can have a free consultation before you sign any forms. But what does that mean? In today's video, I'm going to walk you through the things that go on in a free consultation with most law firms, what you can expect and what you shouldn't expect before you sit down and hire a law firm. Hi, my name is Brian Glass. I'm a personal injury lawyer in Fairfax, Virginia. And what I'm going to talk about today applies to what goes on in my firm, but also what I think goes on in the vast majority of firms across the United States. So almost every law firm who's in the injury space is going to offer a free consultation. And effectively, the representation is free right up until the end of the case, right? Because in a contingency fee practice, what you're signing away isn't a check to pay the lawyer to do some of the work. It's a percentage of the value of the case ultimately. And the lawyer's going to help you build the value of the case. And it's going to take lots of problems off of your hands in the meantime. But at the end of the case, what you're signing away is a piece of your asset, a piece of the case that you have. And so what should you expect and what can you not expect to receive in a free consultation? Listen, we do free consultations for a couple of reasons. The primary reason is to lower the barrier and make lawyers seem less scary, right? We want to sit down with you, and it used to be face-to-face, but more and more often it's either by Zoom or by phone conversation, and show you that we're not scary people, that we're just normal people who happen to be lawyers and happen to be good at extracting money from insurance companies on behalf of our clients. And so these are usually friendly encounters where we're trying to figure out two things. Number one, do you have a case, a viable case? Is there some money that is in the hands of an insurance company that we can help you get? And number two, do we want to work with you on this case? Because we don't want to work with every single client. Some people, as you know, some people are just not pleasant people, and we don't want to work with people who aren't pleasant. So that's what the lawyer's trying to do. The lawyer's trying to figure out really two things. Do you have a case, and do I want to work with you? Now, the have a case part, it means we need to have somebody else who did something wrong. Most of the time we're talking about auto accident cases, at least in my firm. Could be talking about a dog bite case, could be talking about a slip and fall, could be talking about some other kind of premises liability case where there's a landowner who did something wrong. But most of the time what we're talking about in my firm and in my practice is an auto accident case. Is there another driver that did something wrong and caused a crash? If so, we want to make sure that there's recoverable insurance money. If the other driver doesn't have coverage, we want to be sure that you had coverage, uninsured or underinsured coverage. And there's a couple of other places that we can look. We can look in the driver's household. We can look to see if the owner of the car had coverage, if he's different than the driver. We can look in your house, whether maybe you live with a resident or you live with a relative of yours who has their own coverage. It's rare to get a consultation call about a case, get all the way through, and there's no coverage anywhere, right? But that's an important part because what you're coming to us to do is to extract some money from the other side. I've said it a couple times in this video already. We are not in the business of holding drivers accountable by going to traffic court or by making sure that they get points on their record. Our business is entirely transactional, getting people compensated for the injuries that they've sustained. So that's the second part. Number one, somebody at fault. Number two, is there some insurance money available there? Number three, what are the damages? And the damages are your medical bills, they're your lost wages, and they're your pain, suffering, and inconvenience. And the smaller the case, the less likely it is that a lawyer's going to take it, right? Lawyers are not generally interested in cases where there's only an urgent care visit because we can't add a ton of value if you get better within 3 days. And because if you get better within 3 days, you really shouldn't need a lawyer anyway. You just give the insurance company your medical bill and your record. They're going to pay you something modest for pain and suffering that reflects that your injury only lasted 3 days, and you're going to go about your life. You don't need a lawyer to work on a case like that. Where I kind of draw the line is where you have emergency room or urgent care or primary care doctor visit, and then you've had chiropractic or physical therapy or orthopedist care that goes on for about 8 to 12 weeks, right? Cases like that, we can absolutely help. The value that we're adding to those cases is we're making sure that the bills are all paid correctly. We're making sure that the insurance company is not taking advantage of you. And we're making it so that you don't have to go and become an expert in auto accident law, right? We're not putting probably an awful lot more dollars in the pocket of somebody who's only had 8 or 12 weeks of physical therapy because those cases aren't that large. And while we are safeguarding against the risk that you are getting screwed by the insurance company, we're not magnifying and amplifying the value of those cases most of the time. Now, there are cases where there's maybe not much damage to the back of your car, where an insurance company is going to say, we don't want to pay for 8 or 12 weeks of physical therapy. We'll pay for half of that. We'll pay for the emergency room visit only. In those cases, absolutely, we add value. But in a case where you've been to an emergency room, it's a bad crash, and you do 8 or 12 weeks of physical therapy, really the value that we're adding to a case like that is that you don't have to learn how to do all this stuff yourself. Especially in Northern Virginia, most of my clients have busy jobs. They're often two-income households, so both spouses are working. They're, like I am, running their kids to sports practices 3 nights a week, and they don't have time, in addition to their job and their kids, to compile all the medical records, write a demand letter, learn how to negotiate with an insurance company, figure out whether they might owe their health insurance company any money back. And so it's simpler and it's easier just to pay a lawyer in cases like that. And then the third category of cases is where you have a surgery or you have a permanent injury or God forbid, you have a death. In those cases, absolutely the lawyer is always going to amplify the size of the case and is almost always going to put more money in your pocket at the end of the case. And so that's kind of what the lawyer is trying to figure out. Am I interested in representing this person and in working on their behalf? And is there a value add that I have to their injury case? From your perspective, you should be trying to figure out the same thing. Do I want to work with this lawyer? Because even a small injury case, you're going to be entering into a 6-month relationship with the lawyer, right? You're going to be in medical care. Lawyer will be getting your medical bills and records. They'll be preparing the demand package, negotiating with the insurance company. On the very low end, you're talking about a 6-month relationship. On the long end, I've had cases that have gone on 3, 4, 5 years. And you have to be absolutely certain that you want to be in a relationship with this person for 3, 4, 5 years, where you're listening to their advice, where you're trusting them based on the advice that they've given you. And to get there, you can do a couple of things. You can go on Google and read their reviews and see if there are other people that sound like you who have trusted them before. You can get referrals from other lawyers in the community or other people in the community. If you're somebody who is taking the time and spending the effort to talk to multiple lawyers about your case, one question that you should ask them is, hey, if I don't hire you, what are the names of 2 or 3 other personal injury lawyers who you would hire if you were in my situation? And what'll happen if you talk to 2, 3, 4 lawyers is you're going to hear one name, maybe 2 names, over and over and over again. And that really is the lawyer who's probably going to be best suited to handle your case. Now let's talk about what you should do to prepare for an initial consultation. Because what happens, and a mistake that a lot of clients make when they call here, is they haven't really done any thought about what do I want to ask the lawyer. And so we end up walking them entirely through the conversation, which is fine. But if I were on the other end, I would want to be prepared. And here's what I would do in order to get prepared for a consultation with a lawyer. I would make sure that I have the claim number and the name of the other driver's insurance company. I would make sure that I have all of my insurance information gathered. Usually we're going to be asking you about what kind of policy you have, what kind of coverage you have. And so you might want to pull up your declarations page. That's the one that tells you what the limits of your policy is, tells you whether or not you have medical expense payments coverage. You're going to want to have that nearby because the lawyer's going to want that information. If you can get the police report before the conversation, that's a great thing to have. If you have some photographs of your car or your motorcycle or the injuries to your body, those are great things to document that the lawyer might want to see before the case happens. And then you're going to want to have a number of questions about how will you add value to this case. And one thing that most lawyers won't be able to do for you in most cases is tell you in the first phone call or the first visit what the case is worth. Unless you have all of your medical bills and records compiled, you are 100% out of the woods medically and you're better, any number that we tell you is just going to be guessing, right? But the lawyer can, from a strategy perspective, tell you the tactics and the methods that they use to increase the value of the case and to run the case efficiently. The other thing that lawyers can't usually tell you from the beginning is how long is the case going to take. Why is that? Because most of our clients are coming to us while they're still in medical care. And the biggest variable in these cases is how long does your medical care take, right? Because if you hire me in September and your medical care resolves in October, well, now I can start working on resolving your case. But If the following September you're still in medical care and there's some questions about whether your injuries are related to the crash and we have to talk to your doctors, well, a whole year has gone by and I'm not able to work on resolving your case. We've given you advice in the meantime about what doctors to go see, what complaints you need to be making sure you're cataloging, those kinds of things. But I haven't had any control over the movement of your case towards a conclusion during the year that you've been in medical care. However, most lawyers should be able to tell you how long it'll take once you're out of medical care, because we've done this a couple of times, right? We have a system in place in our office for collecting medical bills and records in a timely manner, getting them to the insurance company, and so we know, for instance, that it usually takes about 4 weeks after the day that you're done with medical care to get all your medical bills and records, and it usually takes about a month for the insurance company to evaluate it and make an initial offer. Now, we don't have any control over whether the offer is good or bad, fantastic or crappy, right? But we do have some control over what happens if we don't get an initial offer. And so if we don't have one in about 45 days, we're usually filing a lawsuit because that will get the adjuster's attention. And so your lawyer should be able to walk you through what are all of the steps that I should expect in the majority of cases. Now, there are fringe cases that are going to resolve really, really quickly, and there are fringe cases that are going to take 5 years. But in the majority of cases, the lawyer should be able to walk you through the process, and you should feel comfortable listening to that lawyer and understanding the process and getting your questions answered about it. The last thing is, during the initial free consultation, if you want to talk to a lawyer, and not everybody wants to talk to a lawyer, right? Some people just say, hey, I trust Brian, I want this thing done with, onboard me. If you want to talk to a lawyer, then you should be able to talk to the lawyer who's ultimately going to be handling your case. And this isn't the case in all law firms, especially the larger advertisers. You're going to an initial team that sometimes is like a sales team. It's not even their whole training and their job is to get you to sign a contract, whether they can add value to your life or not. If you can get through and talk to a lawyer and get an understanding of, is this somebody I want to work with? Do they want to work with me? And how will they add value to my life? Well, then that's a win. And those conversations, once we've had them all the way through, usually result in our best clients. So be an advocate for yourself. Do some research before you get on the phone with a lawyer. Do some research after you talk to the lawyer. Review the contract before you sign it. So one of the things that we see with these electronic signatures now is sometimes you send the retainer and boom, it's like 35 seconds later they've signed it. Well, that person hasn't read the agreement. Be somebody who actually reads the agreement. Understand the relationship that you're getting into, right? Take advantage of the free consultation with a lawyer, and sometimes with 2 or 3 lawyers, until you find somebody who you are comfortable with, who you believe can increase the value of your case. That's all I have for you on how to maximize the value of the free consultation. If you'd like to have a consultation with our office, click the link somewhere in our YouTube profile or give us a call. We'll talk to you, and I hope that we can help you out.